Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways, part 3 of our little economic teaser series here. We're going to talk about China, and Chinese-style industrialism is dying. In the last video, I talked about how consumerism, materials, goods consumerism, has driven global economics for more than half a century. That's dying because you can only have so many KitchenAid mixers before you run out of space, and buildings are kind of hard to do, infinite numbers of buildings so you can have infinite numbers of KitchenAid mixers. It stops making sense after a while. So we're going to have loyalty programs, services, subscriptions, all that's going to beef up. Excuse me. But also bespoke and custom goods and repair of durable items. That's going to be uptick. That's going to be ramping up a lot, especially as you get local manufacturing, the 3D printing thing, where it works. Once again, replacing the lid to the fancy cup is better than buying another cup when you have a fancy logo that you like on your personalized cup that you got as part of a group buy 10 years ago on a forum, right? It has significant value to you, so you would rather have a 3D printed replacement lid, even if it costs $9, than get a new $10 mug, right? Okay, that's part of consumerism. That's going to be driving things. But that isn't Chinese industrialism. So what China did was they took the Industrial Revolution and they put it into a modern authoritarian context. And they really ramped it up. They did a really good job with it. And they shot themselves in the foot any number of ways. The authoritarianism, the population collapse, the lying about resource uses, lying to themselves about resource uses. There's all sorts of logistics problems, all sorts of reasons China's dying. China is not the future of global economics or regional economics. It's probably not even the future of Chinese economics. I can see the country breaking up into several functional nations or dysfunctional nations in the near future. Okay, so there's an industrial age demise to that. But, here's the thing, but China is one of those places that is really good at providing half-formed goods. So on the hobby side of this, it's actually really funny because for decades now, there have been these Chinese mini mills and mini lathes, little small machine tools available that almost work. They're almost good. Like they've got the major casting is done, everything's nice and ready to be built. As they come to you, they're not capable of doing much work, not very good work, but they are capable of doing some self-improvement. You can make some things on the tools that will make the tools better. And there's an infinite array of improvements available. To the point where some of the Chinese companies have actually offered just the housings, just the frame, the main castings of the machines to companies in America to just finish out and build their own stuff. This actually exists and does happen. This is a small example, it's a hobbyist example, but this exists in every marketplace. Electric vehicles, homemade electric vehicles, custom shop, exhausts, everything. There's a bunch of stuff that you can get from China that is basically parts, okay, that you can use to build your custom stuff. That is a future of industry. It's not that we're going to get singing, dancing trees, solar-powered little flowers from China, but we're still going to be getting parts from various places. This is an area where, once again, it sucks to be China because a lot of countries can actually make parts. Some parts of something somehow. All right? And America really excels at this. We're actually really good at it. And it's another one of those things where we don't need the world. The world needs us more than we need the world because we're really good at designing how to do that stuff. So this is the demise of the industrial age in the classic sense, but It's back to making parts instead of finished goods, and it's back to a kind of almost an earlier form of industrialism. And that gives us some really good growth opportunities in spaces of specific types of logistics and warehousing, supply chain, all around, because it's not going to be just in time, but you have to have the right parts in the right storehouses in the right quantities. You kind of have to play the guessing game on that. But also standardization of parts and designs, which is a really big deal. If you can make everything work successfully, that's a key element, as Legos, then you just build Legos. So work successfully is the key. There are a lot of things. The furniture world is fully awash in this stuff that are designed to fit in a certain size of packaging for purposes of Amazon shipping, Walmart shipping, container shipping, IKEA shipping, loading into a trunk. There's these size constraints that are built in, and the products are designed around them to the detriment of the products. That's not what you want. You want to go and make it somehow advantageous or somehow work out. Okay, that's standardizing some parts. Look, SAE or metric, there are standard bolts. Lots and lots of standard bolts. Possibly too many. I go through and I get exotic bolts and nuts for various machines and calculator repair, electronic repairs all the time. And there's a lot of engineering reasons for it. But it's all standardized, and if you need to, you can eventually go to one of the companies and find the stuff, like MasterCar or something. You can find the parts that you need because they are standard parts. Keep that level of standardization, okay, standard parts, and then let people build the larger devices that they need to build, or larger products that they need to build. So what you're doing here is you're marketing an increased availability, quality, lower price, local availability of parts, and then you're designing an entire ecosystem for those parts for people to build projects. Part of your marketing ends up becoming, hey, this car is built out of these standard parts. You can get these standard parts anywhere. So if you're a car company, a local car company, because we're no longer shipping cars overseas, then you can design your car with these parts. That becomes a marketing strategy. That becomes a really big deal, okay? It isn't, once again, something China does very well. China's not going to succeed at because making the parts doesn't have to be globally isolated. You don't have to make the parts in China. It's just as easy to make the parts in the US or Mexico or Colombia or Germany, even Germany, or Libya, right? If you can get a functioning Libya. It's just easy to make the parts there, but the key is to set up to making the parts. Build these little factories. Build them out, decentralize them, disperse them, make them universal. And here's the other prong to this, okay? China's dying because they don't do very good at building universal factories either. They build these lines to build a thing, and then they abandon it. They abandon entire industrial cities because something changes. They do this. You can see it. You can see YouTube videos of it. Instead, you want to make flexible manufactories to make parts that are standardized to make your stuff. It's a different kind of industrialization. It allows much more customization, much more bespoke creations. That's good because that's going to drive your consumerism, because we're already saturated in mixers. We're saturated in KitchenAid mixers. What we need is custom designed attachments for those mixers. What we need is DC, direct drive DC motors for those, so that if you're on a solar system or something, you can just run them off of your 36 volt or 24 volt DC system. Stuff like that. Stuff that makes it different and special but uses standardized parts. That's the key moving forward. Instead of selling KitchenAid mixers, you're going to sell stuff to make the KitchenAid mixer do what you want it to do. The factories to manufacture the parts need to be agile and localized, spread out, but able to do a significant workload reasonably well with a reasonable efficiency. That's good. Don't worry about the energy use too much because energy is going to be cheap. Got it? That's kind of the opposite of what we're all taught to think right now. It's all about conserving energy, no matter how crappy the product is. Don't go that route. America's going to be the land of cheap energy. So make it, you use the energy wisely. I'm not saying be wasteful, but don't focus on the energy, focus on the product. Focus on the product, not the energy. So if you want to take over the world economically, and with the industrial age right now, China is dying. Okay? The future is going to be parts. Making lots of parts with an agile manufacturing system so that you can switch parts rapidly. Okay? You're still going to be regional and even some global transportation. That's going to happen. That's going to be there. But you want to make the bulk of your stuff locally. If you can design and implement basically single unit manufactories, just drop ship manufactories around the country, you'll probably do very well. Okay? And we'll get to the last part, which might be the most interesting part, soon enough. Stay sideways.